Hello, so it's been 24, 48 hours since I fed my starter or created my starter. I just wanted to show you what it's looking like now. I do watch a lot of videos online. People put it straight into a glass jar so you can see the fermentation happening and the bubbles occurring. It's a really useful guide to do. I've just done it in a bowl, but we can put it into a glass jar afterwards. I just find it a lot cleaner to do it this way. So have a look in here right now. You can see from where it was, it's starting to bubble. If you look right in, that's what you're looking for. So a glass jar does help it. You can see all the bubbles forming and it rising and up and down. But you can also use a good eye to see those bubbles. It's doubled in size, and that's what we're looking for. So after we've done this, what we want to do is keep feeding it. So it's been about 48 hours and it's starting to work. It may not work like this, it may be slower, you might not see bubbles, but still go through what we're about to do anyway. What you want to do is get into a routine of feeding it quite regularly in the early days. So what we're going to do is we've got quite a lot of starter in there. I'm going to discard pretty much 3/4 of that. And the great thing about your starter, it's got all that yeast and good bacteria in there at this stage as well. And when it's fully working, if you discard it, you can throw it away, but you can also use it for lots of different things. You can put it into pasta doughs or pancake doughs, so you get your normal standard pancake recipe and put some of this discarded starter in it as well, and it just adds a really lovely note to it. So there's loads of stuff you can experiment with this. You can put it into batters, into cake mixes, whatever. It doesn't need to be thrown away. You don't need to keep it either. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get rid of this, 3/4 of this. I've got loads hanging around anyway, and then I'll come back to the video in a second. Okay, there we go. So you can see how much I've got rid of. It's quite a lot of it. As you can see in there, where I've got rid of it, you can see all those little air bubbles and pockets forming. That showed me that it's fermented. Now, if it is in a glass jar, you can obviously see that rising up through the jar itself. And if you put a measure on it, like a rubber band, then you can see that it's doubled in size. So all we're going to do now is feed it again. So the same as we did the other day, I have a cup of wholemeal and strong bread, half and half. In we go. And of course, the measures you make of your starter when this is alive and really healthy will depend on how much bread you're making. It's kind of, if you're not making much bread, don't make massive quantities of starter. It's that kind of ethos really. In with the water, mix it all around. Good angle. You see it's all coming together now nicely. That's the kind of texture I'm looking for at the moment. Now I'm doing it in much smaller batches. I really like using quite a stiff starter. When I was making massive batches of dough, it's actually easier to work with. So if you had a really loose starter, I find it quite easy. But now I'm just making smaller quantities, like a couple of kilo loaves. I like it quite stiff one, and it makes just the bread much easier to work with. Okay, so there we go. At this stage, you should be getting some quite nice smells off of it. So it may smell like a bit like brewing, or you get like cider vinegary smells from it and all that kind of stuff. Don't be put off if it smells really sharp and vinegary. That's a good sign. And what that's showing is that the bacteria that's present in the air, that's feeding off of the flour and the yeast and all that kind of stuff, it's basically it's a byproduct. So it's forming lactic acid. So it's fermentation. So those lactose bacteria are just basically leaving an acid behind. And so there we go. That's what we want to look for. Again, when this is ready, 24 hours now, this will probably be very ready to use. If you've got the right environment, so it's kind of like nice, warm environment. You don't want to put this in the fridge. This wants to be out all the time if you're going to use it. then it should work. 48, 72 hours, you should have a healthy starter ready to use. If you're going to use it regularly, what you want to do is exactly the same process every day. So last thing before you go, it depends on your schedule, but what I do is, last thing before I go to bed, I feed it. Then I know it's going to probably be ready to use by about 9, 10 in the morning. Right now that's pretty easy because of what's going on. But you can work it around your schedule. So if you're going to make your dough at night, feed it first thing in the morning, that kind of thing. And you can see how simple it is. It takes about, depending on the environment, 12 hours to get going. Maybe shorter, maybe longer. If you want to give it a rest and you don't want to make a sourdough anymore, take a little bit out, put it in the freezer, fine. It'll stay in the fridge. I've kept it in the fridge for 3 months and then restarted it. It takes a good week or so to get going. What you'll notice is if you don't feed it, the solids and the liquids will separate, and the liquids is kind of basically hooch. So it's the extract from the yeast, and it's like an alcohol and all the byproducts forming there. You do the same thing, mix it all up, discard most of it, feed it to get into a regular pattern, and it will come good again. But yeah, 3 months in the fridge. This time of year, if you're not going to use it, you really don't want to leave it out on the side. The flies can get to it. It'll go off pretty much as well. You know, you'll get mold in there as well. So if you're not going to use it, stick it in the fridge. If you're going to use it, feed it regularly every day. If you forget to feed it for a day, it's not going to. If it's lively, it's not going to suffer too much. You can feed it and get it back to state pretty regularly. It'll be all right. Thanks for watching. Any questions? Just give me a shout. What I'll do is one more short video on the starter about what it looks like when it's fully going. Cheers.